right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode I don't know what with the All in Recruiting podcast. We have today another amazing guest, the legend, the one, the only, the one, some people call him the OG in recruiting, Adam Posner. Adam, thank you so much for being on today. We've been talking a little bit, but I'm a fan. I'm a fan of yours. I've been following you for
Appreciate
years.
it.
It's almost like I know you, but I don't. But now I'm gonna. So it's exciting.
I don't think you know me, because if you knew me, you would have said Posner instead of Posner. And
Did I just mess that up?
it's all good, man. It's all. I'm only laughing because we said. And for anyone out there in the audience, just to clarify this, it's confusing because it's the POZCAST, and people either say Posner or Posner, and I say Posner. But when I was a kid, people used to say Posner, and I got the nickname Poz. So when I came up with the podcast, there was only really one name for it, and that's the POZCAST. So you're not,
So I messed it up after that coaching of a minute of like, hey, Enrique,
you did. You did, but it's okay because you're new at this, and I'm here to coach. I'm here to give actionable feedback, and I'm here to add value. So first and foremost, dude, one, thank you so much for having me on your show. Second of all, and I'm literally just wrote a note in my pad right now. I give you so much credit for doing this, for going out and trying something. And you told me before this isn't your first podcast, but you're doing it, a new one in this space. And I remember this is how I started my first show. I recorded a Zoom conversation with a connection I had on LinkedIn, and that was it. And as I worked on it, and I kept going and I kept going, and that's the key, man. Just keep going, set goals for yourself, and consistently improve.
I like it. No, thanks. Yeah. And sorry about the name.
No, I'm busting your chops, man.
Goodness, man.
If you know me, you know I'm a ball buster, man. Just busting your chops.
You are. Hey, me. I think some of the stuff that you post on LinkedIn, I'm like, someone had to say that. Someone had to say, and no one better than Adam. Adam has like that you've earned the stripes. You have the gumption, and you just get out there and say things. So
well, that's the thing, man. Like I'd be lying to you. Like if I said otherwise. There's been times, and it's usually a reflection when I'm not feeling my greatest mentally, when the snark really comes out in almost a mean way. And I caught myself, and I really, we talked about this earlier. I don't want to look back and say my kid's looking at Adam's LinkedIn from 2022. I'm like, wow, Dad was a real dick. Like, no, and I was at times to certain things because it was an outlet. It was a passive aggressive way of airing out frustration. So I did two things. One, I cut and I blocked and all that negative people, all the negative energy. I removed it. And I also added another filter in my head saying, what is this going to accomplish if I write this? Right. What's going to happen? It's going to bring a negative look to my brand. It's going to bring a negative look to me. So what I like to do is I like to write posts. I call them rants. And yes, there's some negativity in there, but I also try to position it more, Enrique, as learning. And like you said before, people are like, yeah, I wish he said that, because so many people are thinking the same thing. And you have this small population of people on LinkedIn who are the gurus and the self-anointed thought leaders that are saying stuff and giving advice, and everyone's taking it as gospel because you see these people with these big numbers that don't mean jack shit, right? They don't mean anything. What really means are the people that are practitioners, the people that are in our shoes, who are really recruiting, who've been here for a long time. And I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to sell you a course. I don't have ulterior motives. I don't need to shit talk the 9 to 5. Hold on. I don't need to shit talk the 9 to 5 every day. Yes, people are getting fired right and left, but I don't need to say that just to prep you and prime you for my course.
Right. I was going to offer you my 12-level course, Adam, but I'll hold off on it. No, I'm kidding. No.
Only $997. Only $997.
And your Social Security and your first child.
And have you realized, Enrique, that most of the people selling these courses aren't qualified to even tie your shoes?
Well, okay, so how do you think about, because I see them all the time on Instagram and stuff like that, where they'll have this whole shtick, and I don't want to call anybody out, but it's like they have a shtick, and then I'm like, oh, well, if they have a take, if you believe you have a take on a certain thing, right, recruiting, right, and then you go to their little link tree, and then you go to their LinkedIn, and they have no experience as a recruiter or someone that might be hiring or nothing at any level. I'm like, so then it's kind of like when I go to the gym, it's not obvious, but I do. When I go to the gym,
you're swole.
It's my little escape. But when I go to the gym, and you see these trainers that are they don't look the most well-conditioned trainers, and they're eating a burger in front of their trainee, and I'm like, Man, would I ever take trainings from this? No, I would never want to take a training from this
Practice
person.
what you preach. Show the
So it's
receipts.
similar to like recruiting. Like, man, like I think it's definitely okay for people like us to have an opinion or a take on a
Hmm.
certain part of anywhere where we have like a level of experience that's respectable, right? I think it's okay to put it out there and have people intelligibly like debate and kind of, steel man each other's sides. Like that's cool. But man, if they don't have a background or experience in it, man, then they're
And
just like life coaches. And it's like, man,
it's
you're 23. What?
yeah.
What?
What do you haven't had a kid, you haven't lived life, you haven't done anything. And then you get the other part on LinkedIn too, which, and again, it's a byproduct of the economy going south and people looking for alternative jobs. So they look for easy money and they say, all right, I need to do something. I could write. And then they invest 1,000 in this course and they call themselves a ghostwriter. Ghostwriting is not using AI.
Right.
Now, there's people that do it really, really well. They're a very small percentage, but most people don't because they're lazy and they don't really actually know how to use AI and prompts the right way or to truly understand the voice of their client, and they're
Right.
duping people into it. Second of all, back in my day, ghostwriting was real craft copywriting, like
Right.
the
It was like
craft of writing without
yeah.
tools.
You
People
had
that
a
really
copyright
did their work.
background. Yep.
Yeah, people that really did it. So you know what? I could sift through that BS, and you know what? I'm going to call it out all day long because I don't want people, taking for a ride for their money. That's the other thing, right? Like I'm gonna be, a little Robin Hood there and tell people what's up.
I like it. I like it. All right. Well, you mentioned AI. I want to get into AI, like we talked about. Now more than ever, it's taking over, as we know, all the
Hmm.
industries that we know of, right? But in our world of recruiting, in our little corner over here, how are you seeing AI kind of infiltrate our world on the candidate side, on the hiring side, and how are you building your own, how do I say it, your own guardrails, your own kind
Mm,
of filters to understand how to engage it, but also how to like understand
yeah,
how people are using it for or against you.
great question. So let's put it into two different verticals here. We're going to talk about job seekers and companies. So we're going to start with job seekers. There are so many good tools out there for job seekers when it comes to AI, but you need to be careful about the tools that you use. Do due diligence, do your research on them. And I'm going to say this: do not take the output as gospel. You may feed a job description in there. It may try to word match it to your resume. It may try to jam in things into your resume that you may not be qualified for. And Enrique, you know this. Us as recruiters, we could smoke that out in 2 seconds. We
Oh,
can smoke that out
100%.
in 2 seconds because what I could do is I know the companies that you work for. I know the job that you're in. I know you probably didn't do that at any of these companies, and you're jamming that in there just to try to get this job. And the other thing that these tools do, a lot of them, they water down the resume. They're using different types of machine learning and LLPs to kind of format the words where it sounds robotic and mechanical. And what it's doing is watering it down versus having you describing what you did in that role in your own language. Now, there's tools like Grammarly, which I've been using since the day it launched, which helped me
Dude,
fine
thank
tune it
God
from a
for Grammarly. I am
for
the
a gram.
worst.
And I have it, by the way, in every digital product that I have on my phone and on my computer. It's a game changer. It makes me sound more intelligent. It helps the grammar, punctuation, helps me think about how to rephrase things. And then I add like sentiment if I want to sound more confident,
Right,
more friendly. It
right.
helps with that. So there's a difference between using tools for grammar, punctuation versus using these tools the wrong way. So you have the resume tools, which you really need to be careful with. And now there's a positive side of that because you could use it to customize a job description that you have the experience for, but to reprioritize your experience within each role, right? If you're applying for a product manager role and the specifics within that product management that you have, maybe they're your fourth bullet point, maybe that tool is going to tell you to bump it up to number one or number two. That's
Right,
helpful. What's
right.
not helpful is when they're jamming those words in. Now, the other piece that these tools do, a lot of them, is auto applying, where you have
Okay.
criteria, you're matching, and it's just spraying and praying out there. That's going to do a couple of bad things for you. Now, listen, I get it. I get it. I get it, Enrique. It's a real bad economy. A lot more job seekers than open roles right now. It's a real
For
problem.
sure.
Lots of tech layoffs. So people are desperate. And I've been there, man. Listen, I've been fired 3 times. I've
Yeah.
been out of work number of times. I get it. I've been out of work once 9 months, which is, in this day and age, not a lot, but I was out of work for 9 months. And I remember the toll that it took on me. And I was
Yeah.
taking every shot I could. I was applying to everything because in your head, you think, I, I could do that. I see that job description. I
Right.
think I could do what's on there, but here's the deal. And you know this. Our job as a recruiter, and I hate to say this, we're really looking for the best qualified person on paper to have that
Yeah.
conversation with. We can't interview everybody to say, oh, I am sure they're a great person. I'm sure they can do it. They have the aptitude and the attitude. But at the end of the day, most companies don't have the ability to train for mid to senior level jobs, and they have expectations as far as requirements and certain experience you bring to the table. So now you have these platforms spraying and praying out there. You're doing a couple things. One, you're not doing the entire process any good because you're jamming the pipeline. You are jamming the pipeline. Now, there's a difference between being 0% qualified for a role, meaning I'm applying to be an astronaut. I have zero qualifications for that, but I'm going to apply anyway because you know what, Enrique? I think I could be an astronaut. I want to be an astronaut. God damn it. I want to be an astronaut so bad that I know if NASA trained me for that senior astronaut role that I would get it. Now,
I feel like I've
it's an
seen the
extreme
movies.
example
I'm
there.
like, I could do what they do in the movies, you know?
And it's an extreme example there, but you get what I'm saying. I have so many people
sure.
that apply for roles. Now, you have this second group, which are like adjacent, where they work in a similar industry. Maybe they have a similar title, but they're applying to these jobs and they're not reading the requirements. In a good job description, there's nice to have experience and then there's requirements. If you don't have those requirements, and a lot of them are like specific technical skills, specific industry verticals or experience, I'm not
100%.
interested. I'm not interested as a recruiter because there's other people who are. But these platforms are just spraying and praying you into it. So here's the other side of the coin. You're setting yourself up for disappointment. You're setting yourself up for failure instead of using that time and the tools effectively for smarter, more focused job search. Now, what does that look like? All right, great, Adam. What am I going to do about that? Everyone talks about networking, right? But networking is not just connecting with someone on LinkedIn. Networking goes a lot deeper than that. It's really looking into a company, seeing who you know there, seeing who people that you work there, and building that relationship with them first. And I tell people, if you're looking for a role and you know somebody there, be like, hey, Enrique, I'm really looking to get into, electronic, engineering, and you work at this company. Could I give 15 minutes of your time? I'd love to hear about your day to day. So find some commonality to have that initial conversation with before you're asking somebody to apply for you or to, put you in as a reference. So that's the candidate side. And then when you're ready, we'll get to the employer side.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love all your points. I feel the pain every day. I'll post a position about this kind of specific engineering type, right? Because that's what I hire a lot of right now.
Yeah.
Is very specific engineering. And
right.
then I have
Great niche.
and then I have a plethora of other engineers that apply that I'm like, I know without even really looking at your profile, you are wicked smart.
Yeah,
You
of
are
course.
very talented. But it's like saying, hey, I'm trying to hire an NFL quarterback that likes to pass the ball a lot. And you're like D2 college linebacker. Like, it's not the same. Like, you can't do it. You can't do this job. So it's the thing that I always kind of not struggle with, but like my heart goes out to people is because the economy is kind of like super fickle right now, very interesting. A lot of people are trying to like transition into a different realm of what they do. How do you help people believe in themselves to be able to transition to something else? Or do you have like sobering advice for people of like, hey, like, listen,
both.
stick to what you know? Or
no, well, I think it's a balance of both. I mean, I pivoted. I did the same. I pivoted 10 years ago from working in marketing and media into recruiting for marketing media. So for me, it was a tough pill to swallow because I knew that I was going to start a new career, a new job, new industry at 35. I knew I had a lot to learn. I knew that I had to be humble enough and eat that big chunk of Thanksgiving stuff, humble pie, pumpkin pie, to say, you know what, I'm going to have to learn. I'm going to have to be open. But I had the wind at my sail because I already knew the industry that I was working in. I had a Rolodex. I had some network. Right. I had that, but I didn't know how to be a recruiter. So I needed to learn how to be a recruiter. Now, what I'm saying to the folks out there is when you start to think about other things, think closer to your central point of experience. What else could I do that I have experience in that's associated where the learning curve is going to be a little bit less, where I'm going to have a better chance of getting in? Now, you also have to be very comfortable about taking 3 or 4 steps backwards. I literally went from making a good 6-figure salary to making a $40,000 a year base as an entry-level recruiter. I knew it. Like there was no, I'm not coming into recruiting making a couple $100,000 a year my first year. I knew it was going to take a few years to build that up. So I invested in myself, and now everyone's not going to be able to do that. But you have to be willing to do that. You have to know that there's no chance in hell that you're switching industries and getting the same money. You're
Yeah.
delusional if you think you are. So my advice is to be realistic, and always comes back to managing your expectations and really think about what you'd like to do, what you love to do, and what you hate to do, and kind of draw those concentric circles. And when an opportunity comes, you're evaluating, see where it lands, right?
I
Be
like
like,
that you have
I
a
love to do this, but I hate this. So how much of it do I really want to do? Right?
I
Like,
love I love that. I feel like I'm gonna steal that because usually I do
go for it.
the instead of 2 circles or 3 circles, I do two. I tell people typically, because and it comes this for everybody young and more experienced. I always say, listen, you have to understand what you're actually skilled in, like
Mm-hmm.
quantifiably. What do you skill? What in school? What do you get good grades in? In work, where do you excel the most in your reviews? Right. So what do you like quantifiably good at?
Mm-hmm.
And then what gets your heart rate kind of going when you're doing it. So skill, skill and passion. And what I tell people is like, listen, you have to examine, go into the woods with no technology for like a day.
Yeah.
Go by yourself and just walk and just think, whatever you do, meditate, pray, who knows, right? And try to find ways where those things connect, where your
Mm-hmm.
skill and your passion connect, and where those things connect, put a dollar sign and say,
Yeah.
what jobs do these things? And you're right. It takes a lot of time to like
It's a lot of
decipher
self-awareness.
what, yeah, and like knowing yourself and understanding, like, okay, like, because I mean, it's unfortunate, but I would say a lot of, especially Americans, live in one or the other. They're
Mm-hmm.
they're really skilled at what they do. They're a baller, like senior financial analyst, but they're a financial analyst for a
Hate it.
company that makes these little plastic cups.
Yeah.
They don't care about the plastic cups. They're just like,
Yeah.
I just crushed it at the finance and I keep this company in the green and we're good.
Yeah.
And then they go home and their real passion is sports or whatever, and they're like doing that on the side.
Woodworking. Yeah.
I'm like, that person, if they crossed it, they should be at like Adidas or a Nike or a On. And
Yeah.
that's where you get that people call, fulfillment in the job. It's like, yeah, you got to try to
I
get
think
there.
with
And
the
I think,
Japanese ikigai or something like that. Yeah.
but I like your third thing is what do you not like?
Well,
What
yeah.
what do you hate?
I mean, dude, I say this all the time. I say this all the time, and I give an example early on in my career. Try things. You're not going to be at the job forever, and it's more important, like especially internships, and why I love them, and I'm a huge advocate of them. Learning early on,
For
Enrique,
sure.
what you don't like and what you hate is going to set you up. For example, one of my jobs, I left an incredible job. I was working at Sirius XM satellite radio in New York. It was 2006 to 2011. Loved it. Loved it. It was one of my favorite jobs in the world. It was early days of Howard Stern. It was incredible. Heart of New York City. It was just
Damn.
awesome. I learned so much. I grew. I got promoted 3 times. It was awesome. But
Yeah.
at 5 years, I kind of just saw the writing on the wall that, like, I don't know, maybe I could have stayed, but like I was like, you know what? I need to make a change. And I got recruited by American Express. Like, holy shit, American Express, like brand marketing and American Express, big ass company, right?
Great brand. Yeah.
And yeah, great brand. And then I get there, literally, I knew on day one that I made the wrong decision. They had me doing
Oh,
financial modeling and spreadsheets. Now, is it my fault that I didn't ask those questions? Is it my fault is it their fault that they didn't
right.
tell me exactly what I'd be doing? Whatever. It was 25 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever. Who cares? But I learned real
Hindsight
quick.
2020.
I learned real quick that I never want to be doing that again.
Right.
I never want to be doing financial. Yes, and I do finances and stuff for my own company, which is different, my own business. But I hated it. I hate and I was bad at it. I didn't know what I was doing. It caused me stress, caused me issues at work. So if you don't like something, find something that's like, now listen, if there's one element that's part of your job, but you love everything else, you deal with it. But I was like, this ain't worth it.
How do you encourage? Let's talk a little bit about, let's just say, younger people, early career
Mm-hmm.
individuals. A lot of times they just want to make the six-figure salary on day one, and they
Yeah, good
want the
luck.
dream job on day one. Man, I could tell
Mm-hmm.
you story after story where
Oh
I
yeah, I'm with you,
tell
man.
my mentees, like, listen, go get that job that is not the best job, not the best paying, but it's kind of where you want to be. And if you look at a graph of trajectory of growth, that's where you want to start, right? But it's like sometimes I feel like I'm talking to a wall because you're like, no, I need 90K on day. I'm like,
Well, you're not getting it here, dude.
you're not gonna what? So how do you like encourage those that like want to grow, but also like give them like, hey, here's a little. honest truth for you without
Yeah,
being.
it's called tough love, man. And we're at the
Yeah,
stage of our life and our career where we're able to do that. And it was so funny. So I really pride myself on keeping and building and maintaining relationships. I mean, it's the core of my success is
for
relationships.
sure.
And I'm deeply connected with almost everybody at every job except for one that I worked at, right? I mean, listen, I got fired from Vayner Media 10 years ago and I'm still friends with plenty of the people there, including Gary. It's like, right? Like it's all about
Yeah.
not burning bridges. Now going
Right.
back to my point here before I went off course, I was having a conversation with one of my first bosses about something similar, right? It's like, how do you come into a job, right? Like, how do you come into a job and like be young and be hungry and work for it and like learn? And I think a lot of that is lost right now. And I don't want to say entitlement because I'm not going to say that all of Gen Z is entitled. That's not true at all because I know so many that are
For
incredible and
sure.
building amazing businesses. But it's this level, and I think it's an effective social media, right? Of seeing these kids crushing it on YouTube, these 7-year-old kids making zillions of dollars with stupid toy opening box crap on, I got kids, I've seen this crap all the time, or
Yeah,
they want to
yeah.
be the next Mr. Beast, which is cool and everything, but you don't know how much work that Jimmy put into that, right? And what he's had to
Right.
do to build it. Also right time and right space. And I think it's a real problem where people aren't open to feedback. They don't want to put in the work and they have unrealistic expectations. So
I
now
went
we
to
sit at
a.
a point, right? Hold on. So now we sit at a point where we are the old men and women in the room where we were 25 years ago when we started our careers. And now we're in a position where we could have these real conversations.
Yeah, it's. I always kind of try to be real with the students that I mentor and like, listen, think of it like a time machine. Like I am
Yeah.
coming from the future, and I'm not that much, and
Yeah.
I'm not that much older than these people, right? Like I'm right now, I'm 35. I'm not, I'm not old. I'm not young. I'm kind of in the middle, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, listen, you're 21 or 17 or whatever, whoever I'm talking to. I'm like, listen, I'm not that much older than you. And
Hmm.
everything I've done, you can do twofold. Like you could crush it. But they don't I sometimes, and you're right, not always, I don't get the umph. Like I went to a kind of like a school conference, meet the companies, bring your resume, mingle with the company. And man, there were students that came dialed in,
Hmm.
suit, laminated resume, good questions, ready to leave a mark, right? Like engaged, dialed in, right? And then there were students that came, they were like, so no eye contact, no handshake.
No.
So what do
What
you
do you
what do
got for
you
me?
guys what do you do? Is this cool? Like I'm like, oh my gosh.
You
Like
know,
and this
prepared.
and there's a
You're not in it
difference.
to win
There's
it.
a difference in like the dialed in students that are hungry, that want it, and then the students that are just like, I know in this major I'm gonna get a job. I'm like, do
I hate
you?
that. Yeah.
Because Starbucks is waiting, bro.
This
you
ain't
know?
2002, man. This is not 2002. I'm telling you, 2002, all my friends, we all came out of school. There was jobs waiting. There was offers. I had friends going to finance, already making close to 6 figures coming out of school. Those days are over, my friend.
Yeah,
It's far,
yeah.
far and few between.
So let's pivot here. Let's talk about the employer and AI.
There you
How
go.
do you
Good
as
job.
the employer or kind of thoughts for employers using
Yeah.
AI, leveraging it, understanding it?
So the same overarching statement applies to candidates and to companies. Use AI as a tool, not a crutch. When it comes to the client side, use tools. Don't be chasing the shiny object just because the C-suite said we got to use AI. Really think about your current recruiting, what's working and not working, where you could find efficiencies. And it's a very blanket statement that every company needs AI for recruiting. It's not true. If you're a small company, maybe you need it, maybe you don't. Maybe there's small elements and small aspects of certain tool sets that are great for you because it's all about finding the efficiency. And the first question to ask really is, can we use, when evaluating a product or tool, one, where's the data coming from? What are the data sets? What does the tech stack look like? Show me some proof of
Right.
proof of work, and then really understand what parts of this tool could we use to make our process more efficient, to give more human side time to the process.
Right.
That's the whole rub of it, right? When a company goes full AI and they're using it for every single step of the process to the offer. Now, I'm not talking about high volume recruiting. I'm talking about companies that are overusing it and taking away the candidate experience. Because at the end of the day, that's the first interaction of any candidate has with your brand as your recruiter in your hiring process.
100%.
So if you're using it, the AI for good to make it more efficient, where I could get a candidate halfway through the process without even talking to somebody. So by the time they speak to Enrique at that company, the tools already did a pre-screen. They already asked him the questions. They have video clips from it. He doesn't have to ask that stuff again. And now he could spend that time talking to the candidate about the culture, the company, the day-to-day, asking the candidate about their motivations, really digging in deep to certain aspects to see if they're right. That's going to save everybody time. That's how you do it the right way. But we're also, dude, and I wrote a post about this morning. It's coming out in a few days, of what stage we're at in AI tech and recruiting. We are literally, we are in the, I would say, if I'm using a baseball analogy, I would say we're at the bottom of the second. We're at the bottom of the second. There's some good stuff out there. Companies are using it. Listen, I'm at all these trade shows, all these, I'm doing the podcast from all these events, and I'm talking firsthand to senior leaders, TA leaders in major organizations about what they use, how they use it, and why. And then I'm having a conversation 2 minutes later with the companies who are making this tech. So I'm hearing it from both sides and being able to piece those pieces together. And it's the ones that collaborate, the ones that really work together and not just put tools out there for the sake of it. Plus, the best companies that are building these tools have recruiters as advisors about the process.
Hey, sign me up.
Yeah, sign me up. That's what I'm going for advisory roles, really man. Good. That's what I'm going to be doing.
The biggest thing that I love your thoughts. I feel like I say this almost every podcast or when I talk to people about AI. Do you find yourself fighting with people like trying to say, hey, AI is a thing. It's real. And then they're like, oh, no. It's like, I'm like, listen, I'm trying to tell you. Like, what I tell people about AI is like, are you familiar with Marvel at all?
Like Marvel comics? Yes.
Yeah, the movies.
Okay, yeah.
So I always say, think of AI as like your Infinity Stone. Like when Thanos puts one of those suckers on, he's like, bam, oh, snap, it's getting me jacked, right? I feel like that's what AI is for any job, any industry. It's going to amplify you and make you stronger in what you do. And I think if companies aren't leveraging it, you've read the book Good to Great, yeah?
Oh, years ago, yeah.
Yeah, I read it like once a year. It's so good.
Good.
The chapter about leverage, the chapter about leveraging technology. That's what we're trying to do here. It's like, hey, new technology. How can I leverage it for my benefit? Man, I used to be in staffing. I used to stay late, like literally researching companies, putting together Boolean search strings,
dude,
falling asleep at my desk, going home at night.
Basic chat GPT could do so many things.
Oh my God. And I would
smarter.
Forget to copy the thing. I'd forget to copy the freaking formula and it would delete or something. No. So now it takes me 5 minutes to kind of get in there and get my mind around it. And then bam, I'm on LinkedIn looking at the top people. And I'm like, holy cow, I would have never found this person. Right. But I think you're right. The biggest thing
is use the tools, man.
Yeah. I think the thing that we might struggle with in the future is how to not lose the human factor with the person in recruiting. Like, how do we not get too much of if I could get halfway through the process, might as well get to the end and I'll put this cherry on top.
That's where it breaks.
Like, where's the breaking point?
Yeah, I mean, I think a general rule of thumb is, really having your finger on the pulse, this kind of empathy pulse, where at what point in the process, based on our company and job, that we need to talk to somebody. A human needs to talk.
Cool. Awesome. All right, Adam, let's pivot here. Let's talk about mindset and how does someone kind of maneuver through our current times, whether job seeker or even like talk to recruiters out there. How can they realize that they're not everybody's savior when it comes to recruiting? How do people keep their mindset straight?
Well, you said something really important right there. I can't be, as a recruiter, I can't be everyone's savior. I can't be everyone's savior. I can't be everyone's coach. I can't be everyone's sounding board. I can't be everything. Right now, I need to manage my mental health first. And it's that old adage, plane's going down. I'm going to put that oxygen mask on first, because if I can't be good, I can't help anybody else. Right? So that's a big one for me. So number one, managing expectations. being able to say no to people and no to things and no to opportunities so you can prioritize what's important, whether it be your job search, your mental health, your physical health. Be okay saying no. Stop being a people pleaser. It's okay to be, and by the way, it's not selfish for you to work on things, for you to take care of yourself and your family.
Right.
Hey, listen, I'm doing what I got to do right now. I'm sorry I can't do that. I'm sorry I can't help you out with that.
Right.
So many people reach out to me. And we know this is recruiters, man, and mental health. We feel this need, us good recruiters, that we want to help every job seeker, that we want to respond to every email. And we really do try. But it goes back to what I was saying before. Imagine you're a recruiter at a large, mid-sized organization, enterprise organization. Imagine in this day and age that you took the time to personally respond to 1,000 applications that come through for one job. How long is that going to take? Let's be realistic here.
That's a full-time job.
So you have the job seekers out there bitching about replies. Now I get it. And all I want as a job seeker, I don't even care if it's automated. Just close the loop with me. Thanks for applying. Unfortunately, we're moving in another direction. Great. Moving on. Right? I don't have this open loop. And especially if you interview somebody, by the way, ghosting does not count unless you actually have an interaction with a human, in my opinion. If I apply to a job and I don't hear from somebody, that's not really ghosting. The company didn't review it, whatever. But if I actually have a conversation with somebody, or God forbid I interview and you don't respond, that's straight up ghosting and it's unacceptable. Now, going back to what I was saying before, minding your mental health, and it comes down to managing your expectations. Expectations of reality, expectations of what's expected, expectations of what's a dream versus what could actually be real. And that's going to really help, right? I'm applying for a job. I think I'm qualified versus I know I'm qualified versus I made it down the interview process. Really just be real. It's easier said than done.
What would you tell the people that are qualified for jobs and they're applying for jobs that if we were to look at them, we would say, yeah, you're applying for the right kind of job at the right level at the right pay. And I feel like a lot of those people are getting nowhere with their application. So how do you lift those people up, give them a dose of like, hey, tips and tricks, like, because it's a lot. I'm seeing a lot of that. Like, hey, I'm applying to these different companies. Yeah, like
first thing I ask is what's working for you? Okay. Now let's talk about what's not working. And those opportunities of what's not working, you tell me what you think isn't working, and why do you keep doing it?
Right.
Get them to think. Get them to think. Right. Get them to think about what's working and what's not working, and get them to test. You know how many people do the same thing every single time, right? It's a definition of insanity, expecting the same results every time.
Yep.
It's not working, and we're all guilty of it. Believe me, you and I do it all day long. It's definitely things that I do that aren't moving the needle, and it just happens. So I think it really comes down to just, you know what? Take a step outside. Step away from your computer all day. Step away. Take a day off. And I'll tell you this right now. Like, let's just say, for example, we're recording this Thanksgiving week. I don't know what's is coming out. A lot of companies and a lot of people are using this opportunity and taking the whole week off.
Yeah.
I'm being straight up about that. Now, how many out of office messages I got today from one of my campaigns? Right? So use this week to do research. But if you're applying on a Monday today of Thanksgiving, don't be upset that no one got back to you this week. And plus Wednesday, forget it. No one's working on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's like kind of like be realistic. I always try to tell people, listen, there's gonna be sucky parts of the process, but you gotta always try to, if you feel like you're getting mad or upset or frustrated, you gotta understand that there's probably a human on the other side at some point or another. So like you're right, like if you apply right now today, man, that recruiter's been busting their chops this whole year. They're gonna take a week, they're gonna take some time. So remember the human on the other side. Like, hey, apply maybe like the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. Kind of let it refresh a little bit. So I try to tell people, like, you got to think about the other side too. I always focus. I try to be as empathetic as I can about the candidate, their experience, what they're going through. But you also got to know, like, what you never will hear is like, hey, man, Enrique over here, I got 3 kids. I want to be a dad. I want to be present. I want to be a good husband. Like, I want to be in there. And I can't just get back to you right when you send that application in. I mean, sometimes I doom scroll on my phone on the apps to see if I get a unicorn, but I'm not going to be the guy that's going to be responding all the time. So I think that's a great point to wrap up on, because I know you got to go. Mindset, have good expectations. Man, Adam, I want to say we should do it again when you have time in the future after the holidays, because you're so great. And
happy to chat.
I'm so lucky to have you on. where can people find you? How can I lead people to you?
Yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn, Adam J. Posner. You can check out the podcast at thepozcast.com. And the recruiting side of the business, all things marketing, media, ad tech, martech, go to nhptalentgroup.com.
Love it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. And hello to your audience. And anyone out there that I'm connected with, awesome. Good to see you.
Cool.
Any new friends, welcome aboard. Come
I'm
follow.
going to try to get this out hopefully as soon as I can. Thank you, everyone, for joining this episode of the All In Podcast. And yeah, Adam, we'll see you later.
Likewise. Thank you, man. Good show.
Yep, we'll see you.